to the Bond of Love interview series on behalf of the Vaishnavi Ministry. My name is Tisha Miraj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Today we have the honor to welcome Nartaka Gopala Dasi. Nartaka Gopala Dasi was born in Minnesota in the USA with the legal name Nancy Schreier. She started distributing Srila Prabhupada's books in 1973 and moved into ISKCON Miami in 1974. She received harinama diksha from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Swami Prabhupada in Miami of the year 1975, and Brahman initiation from him in Vrindavana in 1976. She got to go on traveling sankirtan with Prabhupada and 20 other devotees in 1976 while in India. For her first 20 years in the movement, she distributed books full-time, mostly at the Miami International Airport and in Juhu Temple in Mumbai. She still distributes books today through Shastra Dhan. Currently, Nartaka Gopala lives in Alachua, Florida, and she also serves as a property trustee for ISKCON Miami. Please welcome Nartaka Gopala Dasi.
Thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to participate in the Bond of Love program. I was one of the devotees that wrote for the book. We have that wonderful book, Bond of Love. All the female disciples of Prabhupada that we could locate, I interviewed a few of the people for the book also. And so we got as many of our God sisters as we could find to cooperate in printing the book. So it was very nice and very enlightening. I loved reading the whole book and very interesting stories.
Yes, thank you, Nartaka. It's just such an honor for me to be here and have this conversation with you. I thought we could start off just by you telling us how you first came to meet the devotees and Srila Prabhupada.
Okay. I remember, so I grew up, I was born in the 50s. So I grew up in that era. And by the time I was about 10, I was very attracted to things like yoga and India, but there was no place at that time to find any information. Like even the libraries didn't seem to have books on it. I was an avid reader, and there were hardly Indians living in America in the early 60s. Hardly. You never saw them ever. I mean, I didn't. I lived in Minnesota, so St. Paul, Minnesota, on the banks of the Mississippi River. So I never saw Indians in my life until much later. And even yoga, very hard to find any information at all at that time, So then as I grew a little older and started going to the university, I went to the University of Minnesota for 4 years. And at that time, then a few Indians started to come in to the world that I saw, and so then what happened was one day I was walking across the street in downtown Minneapolis, and right in the middle of the intersection, a lady distributed a Back to Godhead magazine to me from the Hare Krishna movement. And I took it home and read it. And I remember I read Prabhupada's article, and he was explaining how we have to give up our sense gratification. And so I remember I called my friend immediately, a high school friend, and I told him, wow, listen to this. We have to give up our sense gratification. Is that cool or what? And he said, yeah, far out. Of course, we didn't understand what it meant, and very much. But I was attracted, and I was especially attracted to the Sanskrit. So then I remember they have the big art museum there is called the Walker Art Museum. Mm-hmm. And one day they had this I don't know what year this must have been, a 70, 71, something like that, maybe even 72. You can Google what were the earliest videos, because prior to that, they didn't exist. Prior to the 70s, there was no such thing as a video.
Right.
They did not exist, So they started having videos. And so they showed at the art museum, we're going to show some videos. So it was like, wow, I never heard of it. So let's go watch. So we went, and one of the videos was set to the music of Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami, sung by
Yamuna
Devi and the Hare Krishna devotees, the same song that we listen to every single morning in every temple around the world when we greet the deities.
Yes.
And that song, just like, wow, it entered, and it was my ears and went to the heart. It was so wonderful,
Yeah.
So I started studying a few other types of yoga and philosophies like that. And then I went traveling. After I finished 4 years of university, I decided I'm going to travel for a little while, So I went first from Minnesota to Denver, Colorado. And there immediately, the first place I went was the Hare Krishna temple.
In Denver.
And I got a pair of cartols, and I got 2 books. One was The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and one was Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, The Lord in the Heart.
Oh.
And from there, I went immediately to San Francisco. Well, to San Francisco. And they happened to have a Rath Yatra. Srila Prabhupada was not there that year, but they had a Rath Yatra, and I participated chanting on the stage. And coincidentally, I have a cousin who became a devotee before me. I had no idea.
Oh, that's.
And I didn't even know at that time, but he was there. And there's a devotee, Jayananda, who they associate with the Rath Yatras. If you ever see, they always put his picture on the carts because he used to build them back then, and he passed away a little before Prabhupada. But he was, my cousin's name was Indranath. He was initiated by Srila Prabhupada, and he was the one that helped Jayananda when he was real sick, because he died of a type of cancer, and he used to wheel him around in the wheelchair all the time.
Oh, that's
the principal person that helped him. So I mean, that interesting side note, because I had no idea that he became a devotee, and he didn't know that I became a devotee until later, because later on he moved to the Miami temple and I was there.
Oh, that's
when I found, so anyway. But I went to that Rath Yatra, and then from there I went down to Mexico City and just went to the temple and danced. And they had just installed Radha Madan Gopal, the big deities in Mexico City, in Chapultepec Park, where Chapultepec, where the temple is. It was a former embassy, so it's a very elegant building. And Prabhupada was there a year or so later, the next year or so. And so I went there. I got they were selling magazines, and I thought I should give these to my friends. So I bought about 10 of them and started, distributing them to people that I met. I didn't know that we're supposed to distribute books. I didn't know that, but Krishna. And then I went to Guatemala and stayed there for almost a year reading the books. I sat down and I read through the Sanskrit. I was very attracted to it. I liked it a lot. And they had taught me rudimentarily how to offer my food. So I was trying to offer my food every day and read the books, and I had the cartols. So this is what I did for almost a year. And distributed some, magazines and things, and distributed some prasadam and things like that. But that's basically what I did. And then when I was going back to America, the flight was to Miami, and I had never been there before. And as soon as I got off the plane, I just went to a phone and called, because there was a number of the temple in the back of one of the books, or
Back to God.
magazine at least. And so I called them up, and it was a Saturday night, and I said, "Are you having a feast tomorrow?" And they said, "Yeah, we're having it actually at the park at Peacock Park. There's a park called Peacock Park down in Miami on the ocean in Coconut Grove."
Yes.
And so I said, "Okay, what time?" And okay, so I went, and then I never left.
Stayed at the Miami temple.
And I stayed there for the rest of my life, so to speak. And it was wonderful, and that's basically how I joined.
That's amazing, Nartaka. It sounds like Back to Godhead magazine was the first book or magazine that you got, and it's so important to our movement. So that's great about Back to Godhead.
Yeah.
How about when you met Srila Prabhupada? Do you have a favorite memory of being with Srila Prabhupada?
Well, the first time I met him was in Miami, because I had joined in approximately May of 1974. I had joined the temple in Miami, and we had just installed Big Gorni Tai there. And they're my favorite deities in the whole world. Miami's Gorni Tai, they're very big. They weigh about 500 pounds each. They're solid brass and metal, and they're very big. And they're very beautiful deities. So, and right after they installed them, lots of devotees joined, just hundreds joined, right after they installed those deities. Because just right after I joined, Sukada joined with her husband, and all sorts of devotees joined. So many, many devotees. And so we were distributing books, and we were going all over Miami, the different malls and streets and like that. And you want a memory of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada came in 1975, and it was very wonderful. I got to make his garland every day. So I would make a lot of, I remember one time I made a petal garland, and it was so long that it came down to his knees. So he doubled it over. And then
it was petals?
Yeah, petals.
Wow.
And he spoke outside under the banyan trees, because the weather was like perfect, and lots of people came, and very nice atmosphere under the banyan trees, very transcendental atmosphere. And wonderful atmosphere. And Prabhupada, and with Prabhupada, it's like the perfection of life, So, but the main way that I really associated with him was through reading his books and distributing them. Because reading them, Prabhupada told us, it's his intimate ecstasies, and he puts everything into it. So if we just read his books, we can come to understand him the best.
Yes.
His intents, his purpose, his realizations, what he wants us to do, his instructions, how we can actually become Krishna conscious. So I really enjoyed, I had always been a reader throughout my whole life. So of course I really enjoyed reading his books, and I still do. And so what happened was, they said, the book distributors, we were all distributing books. So they said, okay, in 1976, everybody distributing books gets to go, who's doing it full time, gets to go to India.
Wow.
So we were very happy about that. And I was supposed to get Brahmin initiation before we went to India, because I had gotten first initiation. And I said, can I wait until I go to India so I can get it from Prabhupada personally in Vrindavan?
Yes.
And I remember one of my god sisters was saying, don't wait, because what would happen if you left your body before you made it to India? Just think, what would happen? And then, but that didn't really convince me, So they asked, our GBC at the time was His Holiness Satsvarup Swami. So they said, well, we'll ask him, can she wait, And he said, well, it's a little bit sentimental that she wants to do that.
Yes.
But we're all a little bit sentimental sometimes. So yeah, she can do it.
Please leave
Oh,
your
sorry.
name and number.
Oh, that's okay.
And remember to have a lovely every moment.
So I waited.
You waited.
And in the meantime, I made a gift for Prabhupada. I made during like lunchtime when in distributing books, I made some shoes for him, the kind of shoes that have a peg, the Indian shoes that have a peg between your toes. So I made the peg shaped like a lotus flower, and I gold leafed, and put a jewel in the center, and then I gold leafed the whole shoe. And I knew the exact size because we have that, as we have now, Prabhupada's foot imprints on the Vyasasan.
Yes.
So I just measured that and made the exact size and sanded them. It took me several months to make these, but finally I made them, and I embroidered a bag that says Srila Prabhupada, a velvet bag, and to put them in.
Wow.
And by this time, by the way, by the time we went to India, we had been distributing at the airport, because one day I was alone in Miami going out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to try the airport. I just thought I'll try it, because I hadn't heard people are going to the airports, and I hadn't heard that at all. But I thought, I'm going to go to the airport because there's a lot of people there. So let's check it out. So I went there, and in like 2 hours, I did as much as I usually do all day. So I came home, and I told that our temple president was Abhirama at the time. So I came home and I said, Prabhu, I did as much in 2 hours as I usually do all day. And he immediately like went to the lawyer, the temple's lawyer, and he got us permission to do the airport. So we started to do it every single day to go there. So we were distributing books there, and then we got to go to India, and there were 4 of us ladies that went together. There was Sukada, myself, Andarupa, and Haristanu. So we went all together, and the first place that we went was Sri Dham Mayapur. And as soon as we got there, they asked us you want to do some service? Sure. So we started to decorate Prabhupada's Vyasasan. And then Shruti Rupa, who was our temple president, Abhirama's wife, came to me and said, she still lives here, by the way, in Alachua. So she came and said, Nartaka, Abhirama wants to see you. He's upstairs. I said, oh, okay. So Sukada, let's go. So we went up the stairs in Mayapur, and when we got to like the second floor, everybody was going, shh. And then we realized, actually, it wasn't Abhirama we were going to see. It was Prabhupada.
Oh,
and yeah. And I was, for once in my life, I felt humbled, So I was saying to myself inside, Prabhupada, you really want to see us? You really? And so, so we saw that Prabhupada's sitting right there. So we paid our obeisances. I said, Prabhupada, you really want to see us? And I looked up, and Prabhupada looked over at me, and he went like this.
He heard your prayer.
Yeah. So we went in there, and he wasn't speaking English. He was only speaking Bengali. Okay. The only other lady in there was Pishima, Prabhupada's sister, and Sukada and I. And there were about 3 men there at the time. And we just stayed there for like an hour, and we were just basking in the glory of being in Prabhupada's presence. And believe me, it was sufficient for us because we were just like simple souls, and we didn't have like questions for Prabhupada or we were already, sold out to him, hook, line, and sinker. We were really surrendered souls.
What a
So we
blessing.
didn't have any questions. We just we were just like in total ecstasy to be in his presence. So
Were you able to give Srila Prabhupada the shoes you made?
that was a gift for when I got my Brahman diksha. Yeah. So, and that didn't happen until later on, we went to Vrindavan. Because the good thing that year, 1976, Srila Prabhupada was feeling halfway decent. His health was decent, so he gave lecture every single morning. For a whole month we were with him. Every morning he gave the lecture. Because the next year, 77, during the festival, he almost never gave the lecture. I don't know if he ever did because his health was not so decent. He was starting to decline,
Mm-hmm.
So we were fortunate in that year. He was like, optimum health for him, and it was wonderful. So we were there for about 10 days in Mayapur. Then we went to Calcutta, and now they call it Kolkata. So Calcutta, and Srila Prabhupada came, and her and I were there with our usual job. In Miami, when Prabhupada came, Sukata and I were the ones that put the flowers down before his feet. We had big things, flower rose petals. So we would put them down and he would walk, So we did the same thing in Kolkata, and they have big stairway going up, in Kolkata. So, and we had to wait for him. Everybody was there and then he didn't come. So everybody went away. And so we stayed there and chanted. And like about 45 minutes later, he came and nobody was there but us. So we said, we had to run, go, come, Prabhupada's here, So finally, we put the flower petals out again up the big staircase. And from there, we were there 2 days maybe in Then everybody went to Delhi because there was going to be a big Delhi pandal. Pandal means they put up these huge, huge tents and thousands of people come to listen to Srila Prabhupada personally speak the discourse. And sometimes he spoke in Hindi there, sometimes he spoke in English. And then they would show the Hare Krishna people movie that Vishaka and Yadubar had made. Mm-hmm. It showed temples all over the world. And we would distribute books. There were about 20 of us who would distribute books every night while Prabhupada spoke like that. And they would distribute prasadam to everybody there in the whole place, Yes. And thousands came. So this was a 5-night pandal in Delhi. And it was called the Ram Leela grounds, a big, big place. And very beautiful. And then one morning they said, whoever did over 100 rupees, because back then the books were like 1 rupee each, and the whole money system was different. Now 100 rupees is about $1, but back then 100 rupees was a fair amount of money, So it's enough for pay for 100 books,
Right.
So they said whoever sold 100 rupees worth of books last night gets to go with Prabhupada to a life member's house where there's a small pandal program there, like 50 or so people, 50 or 100 people were there, and so we went. So we got to go, and that was ecstatic. And then at the end of the 5 days in Delhi, they said, so who's ever been distributing books every night gets to go on traveling sankirtan with Prabhupada. They didn't tell us before, we had no idea what we were going to do. So so we were like, wow, amazing.
Nartaka, it sounds like you just had some time with Srila Prabhupada in his company, traveling with him. Tell me, how did you feel protected by Srila Prabhupada and other Vaishnavis? How did you feel protected? And tell us about the bus story.
Okay, so when we went to Vrindavan, then we started to do some parikrams. And during the parikrams, there's a lot of people. There's like hundreds of men and hundreds of ladies or something like that. There were a fair amount of people. So we had several buses. And what happened was we went to Radhakund, and the men went ahead, and after they took their darshan and whenever, they just left. And what happened was one of the ladies' buses had broken down, and they didn't really stick around to understand that. So they didn't know, they had just left. And there we were. We're kind of like, what were we going to do? Because, nobody had cell phones back then. Nobody had computers. There's no way to communicate. And it's even hard to we didn't have access to any phone, and you're in Radhakund. Who knows if there's a phone there at that time, any phone. And we didn't know the number anyway to call Vrindavan. It was like, we were just, what to do, So what we decided among us ladies, we sat and we talked, what are we going to do? So we said, let all the ladies with kids go back in the good buses, and then us other ones will stay, and we'll just wait and see what happens. Something will happen. Krishna will arrange, of course, So that's what we did. And it took a fair amount of time, because what happened was the men all went back, and then some of them were with Prabhupada. And after a while, Prabhupada said, where are the ladies? And finally, he got word somehow, one of the ladies' buses broke, and so the ladies are stuck in Radhakund. And he immediately was very deeply concerned. He was like, what? He said, you have to call the police. He wanted us to call the police, and he did. He got them. He said, call the police and tell them, that they have to do something about this. And so they called the police in Vrindavan and told them about it. And finally, after a while, they got it fixed, and we were able to come back quite late. And then Prabhupada did remark, though, he said, I just hope that someday when I'm gone, that the men will take care of the ladies, nicely. Prabhupada said that. So
what an experience.
Yeah. I mean, a nice place to be stuck in Radhakund, if you have to be stuck somewhere. They call it the most sacred place in the universe,
Yes.
So it's a nice place to be stuck. It was a blessing.
One of the things about you that I love so much is your resiliency and your dedication. And so it would be so nice if you share the story about what happened to you with your family when you were a devotee.
Yeah, when I joined the movement in 1974, of course, and then I told my parents I'm staying at a Hare Krishna temple. They're like, well, what is that? We never heard of that,
Yes.
And so I explained, well, it's Indian philosophy. And they're like, what? Are you crazy or what? Like that. So at the time, it was in the vogue, or it was something popular amongst certain people, that something called deprogramming, which means that there was a person who would go around, and if the parents didn't like what their kids were doing, and it could be, it wasn't at all restricted to the Hare Krishna movement. If they didn't like that your kid wants to be a Catholic priest or a nun or a Buddhist, or like say your kid wants to turn from a Christian to Jewish faith, or who knows what, Muslim, they didn't care what, but you can pay these people and they'll try to deprogram your child or change their viewpoint in life,
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened. My parents had told me, look, your mom is sick. Can you come home and visit? I said, yeah, sure. So I flew home from Miami to Minnesota. When I got there, I noticed that she wasn't very sick, but
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, thank God she got better, So I was there 5 days, and on the day that I was supposed to return, up to the door came this man. His name was Ted Patrick, and he was the most famous or infamous of these deprogrammers. And I knew who he was because I'd heard of him before.
Wow.
So all of a sudden everything went black. It was like my life, went black. And I could just think of Lord Nrsimhadev. I was praying to Lord Nrsimhadev inside. Please, Lord Nrsimhadev, save me. This is hellish,
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened is my parents took everything from me, my neck beads, my sari, my books, my japa. They took everything devotional from me. And they, the guy was just like a nut. He couldn't convince me in a second. He was like, he had some person who had left the Hare Krishna movement, and he had some tape of him talking.
Oh, right.
And, I mean, it was just like bogus. He's trying. He didn't have anything sound philosophically or scientifically accurate,
Yes.
So, and it was like a creep too. He like threatened me. Like he said he just out of the clear blue sky, he goes, like, my family is over here and he's on this side of me. And he said to me, so they couldn't hear, but he said, if you were to try to escape, I would just pick up this lamp and smash it over your head, So he was like a nut,
Yeah.
So I said, oh my God. I said to myself, the only way I'm going to get out of this is just to go along with them. Because if I fight it, so I'm just going to be, peaceful. And so I was like that for 5 days.
5 days.
And finally, my father went back to work because he had taken off work. And so only my mother was there. And I told her, look, you have to let me out and get some fresh air, and so she did. And all I had was my winter coat. This was the middle of winter in Minnesota.
Freezing.
Like 20 degrees below zero. I had a winter coat. I had $10 in the pocket, and that's all I had, because they had taken away all my devotional things and my clothes, that I was wearing. But that's all I had, So I left the place to go for a walk, and I immediately walked a few blocks away to the interstate, and I called a taxi and got a taxi to come, and I was completely paranoid,
Ah, yes.
And the money I had exactly paid for a trip to the airport. Oh, what happened during those 5 days? I had snuck in a phone call to the temple in Miami. And I talked to Abhirama, and he said, just walk out of there. I said, Prabhu, I can't walk out of there. They got the doors locked. I'm held captive, He said, well, when you get out of there, just let us know. I'll have a ticket waiting for you. So he had told me that. So I called the temple, and they had a ticket right away. They somehow got a ticket paid for, and
Wow.
And I went off. And I'm still, when I went back to Miami, I was paranoid for like months, because afraid that they would send somebody to grab me or something,
Oh,
But so for a few years, even there was some, a little, friction between me and my parents. But then after a while, it got sorted out. So, and then we were happy, and I visited and everything like that.
that's so
So,
good.
and they came down when I got married. My father was even in the wedding, and it was a Vedic wedding and stuff like that. So it was okay,
But going through that, it is just not something that ordinary that happens, and so you are just so resilient. What do you attest that resilience to, and that ability to keep serving Srila Prabhupada and stay the course?
I attribute it to Krishna's causeless mercy on this foolish soul. Is what I attribute it to, because Krishna is very kind, and somehow, I had become Krishnaized by Krishna. By reading the books, it rubs off on you, and you start to become absorbed in the internal potency of Krishna little by little, and by chanting the sacred mantras, eating sanctified food stuff, so I just attribute it to God's blessings.
It's so wonderful, because you're such a great example for us Vaishnavis. Do you how do you feel about the next generation and younger Vaishnavis being able to keep a personal, strong relationship with Srila Prabhupada? Do you have any advice about how to make that relationship strong?
Yeah, because wherever I travel, a lot of times people will say things like, people that aren't Prabhupada disciples, will say like, "Oh, you're so fortunate, you got to be on the planet when Prabhupada was on the planet," and
Yes.
we don't get that, we don't have that. But actually, the thing is, Srila Prabhupada said so himself, that if you just read his books and follow his instructions of chanting simple instructions, chant Hare Krishna, eat sanctified food stuff, prasadam, then that's the association with him. It's the same as what we had. So it's not unattainable. In fact, it's very attainable, and it's very highly recommended. So for everybody. So people have to take advantage of that. That's the main thing, to really, look for it and take advantage of it and appreciate it. And then you have the same blessings that, in fact, of course, they say that Prabhupada is the Param Guru, or the grandfather for those, who came later. And the grandfather, they say, can be more lenient or merciful to the grandchildren than he is with his own kids,
Right.
So that's something to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Say, wow, Prabhupada's like my grandfather. I want to read his books. I want to become absorbed in that knowledge, because this knowledge is, tapo divyam, it's divine knowledge.
Yes.
And we have to really take advantage of the fact that we can become absorbed in it, in the internal potency of God. It's very wonderful.
Having your relationship with Srila Prabhupada for all this time, what would you say what quality of Srila Prabhupada do you appreciate or think of the most?
Well, so many qualities he has. I mean, his humility, his intelligence, his fabulous intuition. Like, and give a little example of each. Like, when in 1967, this is from Mukunda Maharaj's book, they asked Prabhupada in San Francisco, because at that time there was a famous poet in America, Allen Ginsberg, who was chanting Hare Krishna. So they asked Prabhupada, "Are you Allen Ginsberg's guru?" And Prabhupada said, "I am nobody's guru. I am everybody's servant."
Oh, yes.
And then he stopped and he said, "Not actually servant, because to be a servant is not an ordinary thing to be a servant." So he's very humble, So that's humility. And then his super intelligence is just very astounding how many books he translated and printed, like thousands, hundreds of books,
Yes.
so many books. And so many qualities are there, and we can hopefully imbibe some of his qualities if we study his character by reading his books and associating with the other devotees that are practicing Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
And I must say that I learn from my God brothers and God sisters, but I also equally learn from the newer devotees that are coming, because some of them are actually, we don't know who's joining our movement. Some of them are very advanced souls. They can be very advanced souls.
Yes.
Prabhupada even said once that all of you have come because you were sent by my Guru Maharaj.
Oh,
And
yes.
somebody asked Prabhupada, "Well, Prabhupada, how can you say, you say that we were sent by your Guru Maharaj, but a lot of us were, we were brought up eating meat, and maybe some were using drugs, and maybe some were, sexually inclined, womanizer or women were chasing men or whatever, And Prabhupada said, all that was incidental. As soon as you heard the Hare Krishna mantra, you came running." So that's what he said. So he's very humble to put it like that, but
Yes.
But Krishna is very kind. Yeah, so I learn all the time from God brothers and God sisters, and they're such good qualities they are exhibiting, and also from the new devotees, just as well, how wonderful they are.
So just to go back, I'm curious about if you were able to actually hand Srila Prabhupada the shoes, and what his response was from your gift.
Oh, okay. So they held a big yajna, or fire sacrifice, in Vrindavana. There were about 70 devotees, and a lot of first initiations and a lot of second, mostly second. And I was in the yajna. And then normally, right after the yajna, you get to hear the Gayatri mantra for the first time, and somebody shows you how to use your hands and use your fingers and chant it like that. But because there were so many people, and it was Prabhupada personally giving out the Gayatri mantra, I had to wait 5 full days. So my yajna was on a Sunday, and I had to wait until Friday before I got the Gayatri mantra. So 5 of us ladies went in together to get it from Prabhupada. And we went into the place where we were getting it is Vrindavana, Srila Prabhupada's quarters. This is his house, and it's attached to the Krishna Balaram guest house, Prabhupada's house. It's a 2-story building. Upstairs is a bedroom, and downstairs is a whole. There's his main bedroom is downstairs, and the kitchen, the living room area. This is the place where Prabhupada entered into his manifest path. Means he left his body there at that place, that same room,
Oh,
So
yes.
this is where we were going to get our Gayatri mantra from Prabhupada. So we went in there, 5 of us ladies, and we're sitting at his feet, and he was showing us what to do. And one of the ladies said she didn't understand how to do the fingers. So Prabhupada turned to me and said, show her what to do. So I did. And then after we were there for a while and he had showed us the mantra and everything, then everybody left. But I had been the only one who brought a gift for him. So I stayed. And I said, Srila Prabhupada, I made this for you. So he accepted this bag, and inside he pulled out the shoes inside, and he held it up and he looked at it, and he said, thank you very much. And then I also brought him some flowers. And the next morning, because every morning, certain of us ladies, when Prabhupada went on the walk with mostly the men, the ladies would go into his quarters and clean, So I got to clean that room there. That was my duty. And every day, somehow, every day, I got a garland from him because he left his garland from the previous day there. So I would take it, And of course, I would share it with, I'd wear it for a while, then give it to somebody else, But yeah, we got that every day, that garland. That was ecstatic. And so when I went in, the shoes were up on the mantle. And that's, for a while there, they had small Krishna Balaram deities that they were putting up there too. But at this time, the deities were not there. So he put the shoes up there. And then I never saw them after that, One time, Divi Shakti, who lives there, called me in 2016 when we went there. And she said, Nartaka, I want you to show you something. So she brings me into Prabhupada's room, into Prabhupada's bedroom. And then beyond the bedroom, there was a big strong box, a safe, Yes. Big heavy safe. So she opened it up and there was some shoes in there, but they weren't the ones that I had made. Because mine, mentioned, had a jewel in the top, and they were shaped like a lotus flower, and they were gold leafed. Completely, and these were not. So I said, no, those. She said, are these yours? And I said, no, those aren't the ones I made. But anyway, so yeah, so that's how I got Gayatri Mantra from Prabhupada. And
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share with us, young Vaishnavis, or about Srila Prabhupada?
Well, I was just thinking the last time we saw Prabhupada in his manifest form was in that year, also 76, but it was in New York. And this would have been July, and Ratha Yatra. It was the first Ratha Yatra that the devotees had going, in New York. And so what did they do? They got permission to go down Fifth Avenue, which Prabhupada said it's the biggest street in the biggest, in the best country of the world, Mm-hmm. So that's Prabhupada. So we got to go down Fifth Avenue. So we started the Ratha Yatra up by Central Park, and Prabhupada was not there. So the devotees started walking. We got down, and we walked quite a ways for at least a half hour or maybe 45 minutes. And all of a sudden, I kind of looked over because I was in front of Subhadra Devi's cart. There was 3 different chariots, huge chariots, and 3 of them, and thousands of devotees. So I looked over to my left, and all of a sudden I saw Prabhupada walking down the street, coming this way towards Subhadra Devi's chariot. And I was like, wow. So Prabhupada came, and he was there, and all of us were just like dancing like crazy. And it was beautiful. It was fabulous. And so that was the last time that I saw him in his manifest form, other than dreams that I've had, and and feeling his presence when I distribute the books, so
Yeah.
or read his books, or because Prabhupada himself said about his Guru Maharaj, since I first met my Guru Maharaj, he has not been away from me, not even for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So also why don't we feel that way? We should feel that way, that Prabhupada is with us, and we should be assured of it. Just like, the non-devotees have affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
so, especially these days, it's something people have affirmations so they can raise their consciousness level. So we also, as Vaishnavas, we have the affirmation that Krishna loves me. Krishna love is in my heart. He's Lord Paramatma, or Super Soul, is in the heart of every living entity.
Yes.
So Krishna is in my heart, and he loves me. He'll never leave me. He'll never divorce me. He's my dearmost friend. And I am part and parcel of God. Means I am a spirit soul, but I'm covered over by this material body. It's not that I am a body and I have a soul. No, we are the soul, and we have a body covering us over.
Yes.
So we can make affirmations also that are very, spiritually, scientifically accurate. And so we should feel the presence of Lord Paramatma and Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada. We should feel their presence at all times.
Yes.
That's what being Krishna conscious means.
Yes, very good advice. Before we go, will you tell us a little bit about your service and your life now here in Alachua?
So now I'm one thing I do, I'm the property trustee for ISKCON Miami temple. And that means that I buy all the books for BBT, turn in the book scores every month. I get their the donor list and write letters for at the end of the year to all the donors for the federal income tax deductions, thanking them, and send them pictures of the deities. And I do different things to help. I'm usually in contact with them several times a week, the devotees there. So I do what I can to keep the temple going, because there's not as many. One thing, we're living in Alachua, you and I, and we're very blessed here to have the association of many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, direct disciples. So a lot, but other places don't have quite as many, and they don't have so many devotees. So sometimes it's a little harder to keep the temple going. So we're doing what we can to keep the temple going. And we have very nice devotees helping us. We also have some devotees that live in Jacksonville that help us. And but we're kind of pushing to keep the temple in Miami going now, because it's a fabulous temple. Actually, the temple room it's over twice as big as Alachua's temple room. It's very beautiful,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It sounds like you haven't slowed down at all.
Oh, well, yeah, my health is not. I was in a healing mode for the last 3 years. I'm finally coming out of it, thanks to God. But because I had, I had like stage 3 colon cancer, had to have an operation. Then, with healing from that, then I had to have hip replacement, healing from that. So, the Lord is good. So I'm going to India in a month for Kartik, and I'm very happy about that.
Oh, good. Any closing remarks?
Um, I'd just like to thank you for what you're doing. It's very enlivening to hear all the different, my god sisters,
Yes.
speaking. And can you tell us what is the website that people go to hear all of these interviews?
It's the Vaishnavi Ministry website. I think Rukmini can put it up on the screen.
Yeah, if she puts that up, or if she says it or puts it up on the screen, that'll be very helpful, because I'm not even certain what it is, but
Yeah.
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
It's called
Vaishnavi Ministry NA.
Vaishnavi Ministry NA, North America. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and answer our questions. Your story in this book is so incredible. I've read it so many times. You're such a brilliant, resilient devotee, and I'm honored that we had this time to talk.
Thank you also for being so enthusiastic always. And wish you all love and blessings. And also, thank you very much for Rukmini Priya, and glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.